Hello all, my name is Sigrid Søndergaard, and I work as a sensory analyst at Lactosan in Denmark. I'm really happy that I'm able to join you today and briefly introduce you to the sensory work we do at Lactosan in Denmark. I have a master's degree in food innovation and health and have been working with sensory science both at the university and in the private sector. So let me just pull up my presentation and then I'll briefly introduce you to the sensory work we do here at Lactosan. So Lactosan is a Danish cheese powder company dating back more than 70 years. And in 1951, Lactosan was the first company in the world to spray dry cheese and produce cheese powder. And our products are produced at our manufacturing site here in Denmark and in Uruguay, and is then shipped worldwide. Our mission is to develop and produce ingredients to the food industry, primarily based on dried cheese products. Sensory work is part of the daily task for many people here in our company. It starts when we receive the cheese to right before a production is approved for being shipped off to our customer. And by collecting sensory data on both our raw cheeses going into the production, as well as our cheese powder at different steps in the production, we're able to use data and knowledge to optimize both common productions and to ensure a high quality of our products. And for you to be able to understand our different sensory panels and why we have them, I'll give you a quick introduction to our production. So our production process begins with raw cheese preparation, where materials are unpacked, mixed and minced. And this mixture is heated to create consistent feed, which is then pasteurized and homogenized to ensure safety and stability. And the treated feed is then spray dried in towers, with the resulting powder being collected in large big bags. And a single production can produce anywhere between 5 to 30 big bags of each 600 kilos of cheese powders. And the powder is subsequently shifted and rested for up to a week to allow for fat crystallization. And then finally, the finished product is packed into 20 kilo bags for distribution. And we have 5 different sensory panels that assess and evaluate our product at different steps of the production. Some panels conduct sensory tasks as part of their daily routine, such as the daily control of the production, whereas others are based on voluntary commitment and participation. And this figure is a quick overview of our sensory panels. First, you can see we have the raw cheese panel, which assesses the raw cheeses upon arrival. And during the production of the powder, the daily control of production monitors the product for each big bag being produced. A raw cheese sensory panel assess and evaluate both the raw cheeses and the finished powders. And then the finished good panels assess the final product before it's cleared for sale. And lastly, we have our internal panel, which are colleagues from the entire company who voluntarily join for different sensory tests and parts of internal or external projects. So I'll just give you a deeper understanding of the different panels and their function. So as mentioned, our first panel is what we call the raw cheese panel, and they work with the cheeses, which is our raw material. When we first receive our raw material from the dairies, we have a small team of 4 production workers who evaluate the cheeses upon arrival and ensures that they are being entered into the system with correct description and maturation degree. And this panel also functioned as a quality check of our raw materials and our suppliers, where we can ensure that what we received correlates with what we ordered. And by ensuring that the raw material is entered into our system with as much relevant information as possible, we're able to optimize the production to ensure high quality of our finished goods. If cheese is entered into the system with the wrong maturation degree, it can have a large impact on the finished good because both a difference in flavor and degradation of the protein can arise. The next panel is our production, where the cheeses has gone through the first few steps of the production. It has been unpacked, mixed and minced, and the feed is now ready to enter the spray towers for drying and becoming powder. And this is when the daily control of the production is being performed and the initial assessment of the powder is done. And during the production of the cheese powder, we have a panel consisting of tower operators, production coordinators, and managers who evaluate each big bag during production. Our production can span over a few big bags to more than 20 to 30 big bags. So by consistently evaluating and checking our product, we're able to optimize and adjust the production to ensure correct taste, color, particle size, and etc. Our production runs 24/7 with the exception of a few short periods during the year. So it's really important that the production panel has the knowledge and skill to evaluate and adjust correctly. Our product portfolio consists of different types and qualities of products, where our naturally culinary boosters and products without emulsifying salts are some of our most important as well as most difficult products. And in order to ensure close monitoring of these specific products, we have a panel who evaluates specific productions as well as up to 12 different raw cheeses from each production. And we currently have a list of roughly 20 different products that we assessed in our raw cheese sensory panel. On average, we have around 3 products that are produced and assessed each week in this panel. And the panel initiate by evaluating the newly produced cheese powder, and then they compare it to a reference. And the cheese powder is evaluated on maturation degree, flavor release, aftertaste, particle size, and potential off flavors. And the powder quality is assessed on a 4-point scale to indicate how good of a product or how high a quality it is. And then after that, the panel will assess up to 12 different cheeses used in that specific production. And our product varies highly in complexity, where some only contain 4 different cheeses and other contains up to 20 different cheeses. And the cheeses are being assessed one by one and evaluated on their maturation degree, the structure of the cheese, as well as different flavor attributes. And we use the results as a quality control of the productions regarding flavor and functionality, and to be able to correlate potential flaws in the powder with a given cheese and to connect knowledge for future productions. The last step of our sensory work that's being done before our finished goods are cleared for sale is done by our finished goods panel. And 3 people from the panel must approve each production, and our lab ensures that chemistry results are within our limits before we ship it off. The products are being assessed based on taste, appearance, and smell in comparison with the reference to ensure that the flavor doesn't shift over time. We assess functionality, such as flavor release and aftertaste, how long it takes for the product to melt or be dissolved in the mouth, as well as specific description of how each product should taste and not taste. It is then once again collected for future reference and optimization of the given product. Then we have an additional panel, which is our internal sensory panel that is not part of the daily work. And this panel consists of panelists from all parts of the company. We have our CEO as well as production workers, so the marketing manager, the procurement manager, and a lot of other people joining. And they're all voluntary members who participate in as many tests as they can and as they want to. And we use the panel for many different types of projects, which can vary from it being a consumer panel, where we want their initial thoughts and preference on a given product, to an expert panel where we have them go through several training sessions to be able to work as a calibrated unit. And an example of how we use our internal panel as a consumer panel is when we're doing application tests, where we have our product development team who work with how to use our products in different types of applications as a way to support our sales team by showing our customers what they can gain by adding cheese powder to their products. And the panel is presented with different samples, which often differ in whether they are or not they contain cheese powder. And the test can have many different aims. For example, it can be a way of showing if we're able to reduce salt in an application by adding cheese powder, or if cheese powder can work as a flavor booster. We have the last consumer test we performed aimed at investigating the perceived chocolate flavor in a cocoa fondue by adding cheese powder. So this wasn't meant to taste like cheese, and it didn't taste like cheese, but it was just a way to actually boost the chocolate flavor by the flavor booster effect of our product. We can also use our internal panel as an expert panel. And this is, of course, a much more extensive type of sensory testing where we need repeated and thorough training. And we use the internal panel as an expert panel if we have a specific project, for example, with the university or a larger internal project. And then we use data analysis to ensure that we have significant results on the performance before we can do the test. So this was a very brief introduction to how we do sensory work at Lactosan. I hope it's been insightful and interesting for you. And now I'll join for a live Q&A. But thank you so much for your time.